Welcome to a new deep dive. We're jumping straight in today, looking at a stack of sources covering late September 2025. And wow, the picture they paint, it's this real clash, isn't it?
It really is. You've got technology just accelerating like mad AI, talent, and then you've got political systems just scrambling to keep up or maybe clamp down.
Right, that's the tension. So today, we're going to try and cut through some of that noise. We'll focus on, let's say, three main things.
Sounds good. What have you got?
First, the AI economy, this incredible global talent war that's unfolding. Second, the flip side, AI's security risks and what it means for politics.
Okay, big topics.
And third, how information itself is becoming a battleground, both in democracies and, well, places that aren't.
Got it. The fight for control. Let's do it.
All right, let's start with the money, because the numbers around AI investment are just mind-boggling. Nvidia, OpenAI, what are we actually looking at here?
Well, people are calling it the biggest AI infrastructure deployment in history. I mean, look at Nvidia. They're planning to put up to $100 billion into OpenAI.
$100 billion, just Nvidia.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's specifically targeting data center capacity. They're talking about scaling up to 10 gigawatts.
10 gigawatts. Okay, put that in perspective for us.
Think about 10 large nuclear power plants. That amount of energy basically dedicated just to powering AI computation.
Wow. Okay. And that's not even the whole story, is it? What about other projects like Stargate?
Right, Stargate, that's OpenAI with Oracle and SoftBank. The plan there is nearly 7 gigawatts of capacity, which brings the total investment just for that initiative towards, well, the number floating around is $400 billion.
400 billion for one project. It's just staggering.
It is, and it's all about this insatiable need for computing power, which, directly feeds into this thing the economists are calling the superstar effect.
Right. Okay, let's unpack that. The superstar effect. What is it exactly?
It's this idea that increasingly success isn't evenly spread, it's concentrated. A tiny fraction of people, the superstars, massively outperform everyone else in their field. They're not just a bit better, they're exponentially better. And the money follows, right. We're hearing about programmers like in their 20s making 7, 8, even 9 figures.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not just tech. Look at music, for instance. On Spotify, the number of artists earning over $10 million a year has tripled since 2017.
Tripled compared to...
Compared to those earning over $100,000, the gap is widening. It's like a winner-take-most, maybe winner-take-all scenario.
So what's driving that? Is it just the computing power we talked about?
That's a huge part of it, yeah. Massive computing power turbocharges the very top talent, especially in fields like finance or research. But the other piece is distribution. Digital distribution is almost free, so one creator can reach a massive global market instantly.
Okay, hold on. This seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Wasn't tech supposed to, level the playing field, democratize things?
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does democratize access in some ways, but it hyper-concentrates the rewards for those at the very peak. It lifts the superstar boats way, way higher.
And leaves everyone else
Kind of scrambling. And this global hunt for those superstars is crashing right into politics, especially with things like immigration policy.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The H-1B visa proposal in the U.S., the cost increase was dramatic.
Oh, absolutely. The talk was about charging $100,000 for the visa.
$100,000. Up from what?
Up from around $2,500, so a massive jump. And you can imagine the reaction at places like Amazon, Microsoft, pure chaos and alarm.
And who does that hit hardest?
Well, the numbers show Indian nationals make up about 75% of H-1B holders. So it has a huge demographic impact.
But isn't this just shooting yourself in the foot?
Yeah.
If you make it harder for top global talent to come, you're basically wasting brain power.
You are. It's a global waste of human capital. There's this really sad anecdote in the sources about Irvin Majic. Brilliant guy, a Bosnian math Olympiad medalist.
Okay.
Couldn't go to Oxford. Why? Because the fees were like 60,000 pounds a year, completely out of reach. So this incredible mind is stuck programming on an ancient computer back home.
That's tough to hear.
And research actually suggests if we just removed those kinds of financial barriers for the brightest students globally, we could boost scientific output by something like 50%. 50%.
Wow. So given those kinds of hurdles in places like the US or UK, it makes sense that talent might start looking elsewhere. Where is the migrating AI talent going now?
Well, California still has the biggest cluster. Over half the elite researchers are there. But that's not where the movement is strongest. Last year, only about a quarter of the AI experts who moved countries actually went to America.
Only a quarter. So where are they going instead?
A big signal is coming from the Gulf. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, they attracted 8% more AI researchers just last year.
What are they offering?
Pretty compelling packages, things like instant residency, big research grants, and maybe the kicker, tax-free salaries. They're making a very deliberate play to shift from oil economies to, well, talent economies.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. We've got this massive AI build-out, but it comes with new problems, right? Especially around security. What's the basic issue with large language models, the LLMs?
Yeah, the fundamental problem is kind of baked into how they work. They can't reliably tell the difference between instructions like code and the data they're processing.
They can't separate code and data. Why is that bad?
Because it makes them really vulnerable to something called prompt injection. Basically, someone can hide a malicious command inside what looks like normal data, maybe text in an email, a weird URL, whatever. The AI reads it, thinks it's just content, but oops, it follows the hidden instruction.
Okay, so you can trick the AI.
Mm-hmm.
And when does that become really dangerous? There was talk of a lethal trifecta.
Right. The risk gets dialed way up when three things are true about an AI system. One, it's exposed to outside content, like browsing the web or reading emails.
Yeah.
Two, it has access to private, sensitive data.
Right.
And three, it can communicate or take actions in the outside world, send emails, make API calls, transfer money.
Right.
You get the idea. If you have those three, that's the danger zone.
Because the AI's natural helpfulness becomes a weapon against itself.
Exactly. We saw that with DPD, the logistics company, their customer service bot.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. What happened?
Customers basically goaded it, tricked it with prompts until it started swearing, criticizing the company, even writing a poem about how bad they were.
Okay, that's kind of funny.
It is funny, but it's also a massive red flag. If you can trick a bot into cursing, you can probably trick it into revealing private customer data or maybe even initiating a bogus transaction.
So how do we fix this? It doesn't sound like you can just patch it like a normal software bug.
You really can't. Because these models are probabilistic, not deterministic. Their output isn't always the same. There's an element of randomness. So the old security mindset of find bug, fix bug doesn't quite work.
So what's the alternative?
The thinking needs to shift. We probably need to borrow from like mechanical engineering. Think about how they build bridges.
Right.
A bridge has a posted weight limit, right? But its actual structural tolerance is way higher than that limit. There's a huge safety margin built in. We need that for AI.
So build in massive safety margins. Limit what they can access.
Exactly. Introduce risk tolerance levels, accept certain error rates, overbuild the safety protocols, and be really strict about what outside data they touch and what actions they can take. Assume they can be tricked and build defenses accordingly.
Right, accept the messiness and build buffers. Okay, that makes sense. Now let's zoom out from security flaws to the bigger political picture. There's a pretty radical theory in the sources suggesting AI could actually erode democracy itself.
Yeah, this one is unsettling but important. The basic idea goes back to the relationship between citizens and the state. Historically, in democracies, governments rely on citizens for funding through taxes.
No taxation without representation.
Precisely. That gives citizens leverage. But what happens if AI leads to widespread automation, maybe even something like universal basic income, where the state provides for citizens but doesn't really need their labor or their tax money anymore?
Uh-oh. Then citizens become dependents.
Potentially, yeah. They become burdensome dependents rather than essential contributors or shareholders in the state. The financial link and the political leverage that comes with it gets severed.
And the model for that kind of state
Starts to look a lot like some resource-rich authoritarian countries. Think maybe Saudi Arabia historically. Citizens get benefits, handouts, but because the state gets its money from oil, not taxes, the citizens don't have the same kind of political power or say in how things are run. AI could, theoretically, become the digital oil that makes citizens less politically necessary.
That's a deeply worrying thought. That the very source of democratic power, the citizen's economic contribution, could be automated away. And that idea of power shifting brings us right to information. Because if power structures are changing, you can bet people will fight hard over the narrative. Let's look at the U.S. first. The sources describe what they call the Trump administration's war against the American media. What tactics are being used?
It's described as a pretty sophisticated multi-front campaign. You see things like major lawsuits. There was a reported $15 billion suit against the New York Times mentioned.
$15 billion. Wow.
Yeah, and also using regulatory bodies as pressure points, like the FCC threatening to investigate Jimmy Kimmel, which apparently led to Disney briefly suspending him.
Okay, so direct legal and regulatory threats.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a more subtle leverage point, isn't there, around media ownership?
Exactly. These huge media mergers like the Paramount Skydance deal or talk of a bid for Warner Bros. Discovery, they need government approval, FTC, FCC.
Right.
And that approval process gives the administration, whoever is in power, a potential lever. You need our sign-off. Maybe make some editorial concessions first or settle that inconvenient lawsuit.
Like what reportedly happened with Paramount.
Yeah, the source mentions Paramount settling a lawsuit with Mr. Trump for around $16 million, right as their big merger was needing approval. The timing suggests, that regulatory leverage might have played a role. It turns the approval process into a potential tool for political influence.
It's fascinating, though. Even with all that pressure, power isn't totally top-down. What happened with Kimmel eventually?
Well, he was reinstated, and the reports suggest it was because Hollywood talent, other celebrities, creators, put significant pressure on Disney.
So the superstars we talked about earlier have clout here, too.
It seems so. It shows that power in the media landscape is still pretty distributed. It's not just with the executives or the regulators. Cultural and economic influence from talent matters, too.
Okay, so that's one picture of media pressure. Now let's contrast that sharply with North Korea. The information lockdown there has apparently intensified hugely since 2020.
Dramatically. The difference in the number of refugees reaching South Korea tells a stark story. Before 2020, the average was about 1,200 people a year.
Okay.
From 2020 to 2024, that average dropped to just 158.
Wow, that's a massive drop. What changed? What was the regime targeting?
They specifically cracked down on access to South Korean media TV shows, K-dramas. Those were seen as a dangerous window onto the world, showing life beyond state propaganda and apparently inspiring people to try and leave.
So they cut off the outside view. Did they target anything else?
Yes, they also went after the markets, the Jangmadang. These semi-legal markets weren't just for goods. They were seen as places where South Korean culture and information were traded and spread. So clamping down on the markets was another way to control the information flow.
It's such an extreme level of control.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that environment, the sources mention one thing that always seems to slip through the cracks. Humor.
Yeah, it's that old George Orwell line, right? Every joke is a tiny revolution.
Why is humor so resilient against autocrats?
Well, partly because autocrats often take themselves so seriously. They build these grand, infallible personas, but deep down they're just flawed humans. That gap between the image and the reality is inherently, well, funny.
And trying to ban a joke.
Usually just makes it spread faster. It backfires. You can't really police laughter effectively. The jerk, as the saying goes, always gets away. It's a small but persistent form of resistance.
That idea of power, control, and resistance is a good bridge to our final quick check-ins. A couple of geopolitical flashes that show power dynamics shifting elsewhere.
Okay, first, a potentially huge shift involving nuclear deterrence. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signed a pact. The key phrase is, any aggression against either country shall be considered an aggression against both.
Okay, a mutual defense clause. What's the interpretation?
Saudi officials reportedly see this as Pakistan essentially extending its nuclear umbrella over Saudi Arabia. And that's significant because Pakistan isn't recognized as a nuclear power under the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
If true, it's a major change in strategic posture for the region.
A non-NPT state extending a nuclear guarantee.
Yeah, that's big.
Okay, what else? A quick look at Ukraine. The sources paint a picture of a country that, while bravely resisting invasion, is facing serious internal strains.
What kind of strains?
Things described as democratic backsliding. Reports of pressure on media outlets critical of the government and the use of lawfare, basically, using legal battles to harass political opponents.
So the external war is taking an internal toll on democratic norms.
It appears so. And adding to the instability, there's apparently been incredible turnover in government, a new minister appointed on average every 20 days. It suggests a system under immense, perhaps unsustainable pressure, even as it fights for survival. #outro.
So wrapping this up, we've covered a lot of ground. A world grappling with absolutely dizzying change. We've seen these enormous, almost unbelievable AI investments.
Yeah, hundreds of billions of dollars chasing gigawatts of power.
The rise of this superstar economy, concentrating wealth and talent. but also the serious security flaws and potentially democracy-eroding political shifts that AI brings.
And overlaid on all of that is this intensifying battle for information control, whether through regulatory pressure in the US or total lockdowns like in North Korea.
I think if there's one big takeaway from all these sources, it's that technology is just moving so much faster than our political and social systems are designed to handle.
Absolutely. And the choices being made right now about who gets funded, which talent gets visas, how we regulate AI, what information is allowed, these decisions aren't just economic or technical, they're fundamentally shaping what citizenship even means in the 21st century.
Exactly. Which is why, for you, the listener, trying to stay ahead, understanding these dynamics is just crucial.
It really is.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to chew on, building on that idea of shifting power. If a citizen's economic value, their ability to contribute through labor, has historically been the bedrock of their political power in many systems. And if AI is now starting to automate away that economic utility on a massive scale, what is the value proposition of the average citizen to the state of the future? And maybe more importantly, how will people claim political power when it's no longer tied so directly to their work?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? Something to think about.